Hello, so today I want to talk about Neville Goddard and more specifically the power of imagination. I have been listening to the fabulous channel recently, Nevolution. If you've never heard of it, I encourage you to check it out. Lila is a wonderful person with a wonderful voice and really distills down the concepts of Neville Goddard just as well as Edward Art and Joseph Rodriguez and many other wonderful people on YouTube. I wanted to go back to Neville because one thing she said in one of the videos really struck a chord, and it is the idea that your imagination is God. And if you don't like the word God, you could say your imagination is creative power, or your imagination is source. Neville Goddard actually said that. He says your own wonderful human imagination is the actual creative power of God within you. It is your saviour. What does he mean by that? Well, I think he means that anything we see in the external world is nothing compared to the power of imagination. As many teachers have said, the inside is causation. The external is reflection, not causation. The power is within, essentially. And Neville says that your imagination is the power to save you from whatever circumstances that you now find yourself. He said that you can experience your heart's desire through the use of your imagination, and nothing is impossible to your imagination. And Neville used to live in a state persist in the state. He used to say something called catch the mood. So when we have the mood of whatever it is that we want to be, and we dwell in it, if you've heard him, he's got many lectures on YouTube, he talks about dwelling in it day and night. So you're almost living faithfully to that imaginal scene, that imaginal act. You're living faithfully to your vision. You're being your ideal self now, whatever it is. You're not seeing with your human eyes, you're seeing with the eyes of the spirit. And I wanted to share something about imagination that might help you if you don't have a well-developed imagination. It's quite a popular test, so you can have your eyes open or your eyes closed. Imagine holding a lemon right now. Imagine that the lemon's in your hand. Imagine feeling the peel of the lemon. Maybe it has a slight scent. Now imagine that the lemon is slightly open and you can just peel that lemon peel away. Get to the rind of the lemon. And now imagine squeezing some of that lemon juice into your mouth, a few drops of lemon. And you might even feel that sensation of what lemon juice feels like in your mouth, and you might even salivate a little bit. Now, that is imagination, believe it or not. Imagination is spiritual sensation. It doesn't just involve the visuals. It involves all the senses. We can even do it with anything. So if you're struggling to imagine and visualize, just start to think of everyday objects like, for example, a rose. Imagine you've got a rose in your hand and you can feel the petals and the velvety feel of the petals, and then the stem, maybe with some thorns. And you might find that you can do this really well and you've got quite a sharp imagination. Or you might find that it's difficult at first, but then over time, as you practice with different objects, you'll get an understanding of what I mean. And so, if, for example, you wanted a new car, you might physically go and sit in a new car that you want and kind of let your senses take in that feeling of that car, for example. And then when you go home, you might bring to mind those sensations, maybe the smell of the leather interior, maybe your hands on the steering wheel, maybe that nice feeling of security that you got when you were sitting in the car itself, and that feeling of ownership. And that's really what we mean by dwelling in the state. Neville said if you can imagine something, you can achieve it. He said that if you were unable to walk and you were confined to a wheelchair, you could close your eyes and imagine yourself running on the beach or wading in the water. If you would imagine yourself doing this until it took on the tones of reality, you could accomplish a healing that would actually allow you to walk or run. You might have heard of the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, did something quite similar. He imagined himself getting well, but he also visualised the remoulding of his spine, vertebrae by vertebrae. Imagine it healing. And he'd practice that again and again and again and again when he was in his hospital bed. And there's different ways to use your imagination. Obviously, I've talked on this channel before about SATs, which is the method that you use just before you go to sleep, essentially. It's a state akin to sleep. And how do we do this? Neville says that you can relax on a chair or a bed and close your eyes. So it's just about getting into that sleepy state or relaxed state. Don't need to be sleepy, but you just need to have a state of complete relaxation. Bring to mind the end result. Don't forget, we live in the end. We don't need to think about the steps, how it would take, Neville, when he was living in Barbados in his imagination, he never once tried to figure out how he was going to get to Barbados. He didn't know the how. So we live in the end when we come to our imagination. So he says, for example, if you're looking for a promotion at work, you might hear somebody congratulate you. You might be like, imagine yourself telling someone and they're like, oh my God, that's amazing. That's so good. Just imagine the end scene, something that implies the successful outcome. You might feel your friend hug you, you might hear their voice, you might see a text message, you might feel that feeling of excitement, whatever that is. And Neville says by feeling that you're being congratulated, your imagination will go to work to bring about that state in your outer world. And when we're in this very relaxed state, we're impressing our subconscious mind and our imagination. And we can dwell in that state. We can consistently go back to that state and live in that state as if it's already done. And go about our day as if we know that that promotion is on its way. So it might take a very short space of time for it to appear in your outer world. It may not. Sometimes people that, depending on their strength of conviction, usually it takes a day, could take 2 weeks, could take a few months. But it's about having the faith as well. We don't plant the seed and then dig it back up again. And when we go into our imagination, make sure that we are seeing through our own eyes. We've got that spiritual sensation. We're not sort of detached from it, watching ourselves like a movie. It's not like a daydreaming. It's actually seeing what you'd be seeing, hearing what you'd be hearing, and feeling what you'd be feeling. So as if you are experiencing that right here, right now. So what you're doing is bringing that imaginal scene into the now and resonating with it through your feeling. So you're making that concept of the future, what you'd like to experience, you're making it as real as possible in the now. Neville said it's a fact in the fourth dimension of space, and it will make its appearance in this three-dimensional world just as surely as planting a seed will result in the growth of a particular plant. So as I just said, once you've planted this seed in your imagination, don't uproot it by being anxious about how it will be accomplished. You just need to go about your day, week, month, whatever, confident that it's going to appear. And if you want, you can repeat that night after night as you drop off to sleep. That's the SATS method. It's one that Neville championed. And if we're going into sleep with that feeling of, oh my God, congratulations, or whatever that might be, night after night we are dwelling in that state and we are accessing our imagination, which is cause to draw those circumstances to us in the outer world.